So here we want to talk about Voltaire as boyfriend, lover. He meets this extraordinary woman and realizes that the two of them share their dedication to science, to the continuing study and pursuit of science, doing experiments, collecting a library, hiring assistants to write and publicize their experiments. And so out of this love affair comes also an extraordinary scientific progressive step, living on the beautiful villa of the Marquise. This is the lady who is the next phase of his life. This is Émilie du Châtelet. She is the Marquise, La Marquise du Châtelet. She is the wife of the Marquis de Châtelet, wealthy French aristocrat with a beautiful, brilliant wife. He met her right after the imprisonment for his letters, casually, socially. She, of course, tells him what she's doing. She's doing scientific research in their chateau and says, please come visit anytime that you're able. Oh, well, thank you very much. Merci, merci beaucoup. And he needed to get out of Paris fairly soon, so he decided to go and visit the Marquis and the Marquise. And so he did, and stayed until 1749. So it was a lengthy stay. It was much longer than the Marquis had in mind. Émilie was married to a very tolerant and very busy man who also had his girlfriend. So he was actually pleased when Voltaire came to visit and fell in love with his wife, because it meant now that she was happy, and she's going to be happy for many years to come. And so now there developed there's only one word it's in French, and it's only one phrase. It's a ménage à trois is exactly what this was. It's a ménage à trois. Yeah, it was a ménage à trois. They had a husband, they had 3 children, and they had Voltaire. And so it's a ménage of a lot of things here. Yes, you've got exactly. You've got the chateau, you've got the husband, you've got the wife, you've got the kids, and you have scientific experiments going on. So this is a very busy ménage. Here is the lovely little town where the chateau is, and you can see it. You can visit. It's all there. And he was, of course, on the run once again from arrest, so he was trying to get out of Paris. And this was a sort of, far enough away. Nobody knew much about where he'd gone. And so they need to do work on the building, and he pays for it. So the Marquis was very, very happy and very grateful. And so he gave Voltaire his wife in exchange for the two of them will now use both their monies to build the greatest personal library of anybody at this time. They're going to have 21,000 books when they're all collected here in the library, and they're going to be working constantly on scientific research. Here's the location, which you can see is basically Burgundy. It's at the very north end of Burgundy, right behind the beautiful city of Troyes. You all know about Troyes because you know it was the great center of courtly love. This is where the daughter of Eleanor of Aquitaine, Marie, was the countess, and so she presided over the greatest court of courtly love and literature with Chrétien de Troyes and other great literary figures. So very close, and you can see right south is Dijon and all of Burgundy. So here is the chateau. Voltaire moved in, fell in love with the Marquise, and here is her great portrait with her scientific research, her books, her astrolabes, her various other She was an extraordinary woman. I'm going to tell you what she did, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. She was encyclopedic in her knowledge, read everything, had the leisure to do it, was a great devoted mother to her kids, and is going to be in love with Voltaire because, of course, he's worldly, he's well-traveled, he's Paris, and he's younger than the Marquis. She died in 1749. Voltaire, brokenhearted, so brokenhearted he leaves France. I was going to say something about him as a sort of a boyfriend. Voltaire wasn't at all handsome or sexy or big. He described himself in a couple of different places, very funny and very witty description of himself. So he clearly was attractive because of his mind. He was so fun and so witty and so charming to be with that you fell in love with him. And then you didn't care whether he was big or little or muscular or any of the other aspects. So they began this fascinating life. And the life that they're going to live here is the life of the Enlightenment. That's exactly what they're going to spend their time. They buy books. They have books arriving all the time that are various scientific books from around the world. And they're going to have visits from important scientists. They will be discussing the publications of Galileo and other international figures. And they're very interested in astronomy, so they're going to be studying. They invite people to the chateau and hold conferences, since they know all about that. And so they're constantly engaged in this new world of international science. They had every reason to do that. Here's one of Voltaire's publications, and this is his book on Isaac Newton's Principia. So he's going to explain to his readers the importance of Newton, what Newton. Now remember, Newton has just published this, so it's just been published just before 1700. So in this period, 1730, it's the rage. People are just starting to try to understand what Newton said, and they'll have to be translated for French readers, and that's what Voltaire and Emily will do. His book, here's the frontispiece to it, and you can see there he is sitting at his table, illuminated by divine light, with Newton, looking down upon him. And Voltaire's Emily is going to produce a French translation of this work. Here's Voltaire with Isaac Newton, and of course that's the Royal Society that we just talked about. That's what he's coming home with, knowledge of it. She published a translation of Isaac Newton's book in French. And it is still the translation of Isaac Newton's Principia in French. To this day, it is still the translation you use if you're in France and you want to read Isaac Newton in French. So imagine the intellectual project that is, to take on the meaning of Newton, the meaning of his insights, and do a good French rendering of it. Of course, she and he both, Voltaire, were now speaking and giving insights to various groups about what Newton meant. In other words, they're interpreting the entire Newtonian breakthrough to their listeners and to their readers. So they're the translators. Then their beautiful life, which they have for 15 years, comes to an end when she died in childbirth at Cirey in 1749. Very sad, very young woman. And she's only 43, so sad, sad, sad to him and to the Marquise and to everybody. Everybody loved her. So he's overcome with sadness and grief, and the King of Prussia had been inviting him to come to Prussia for years. He had a correspondence with Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great had invited many famous thinkers to his country. He was trying to make his country, Prussia, northern Germany, advanced. He was working to try to improve education and libraries and all. So he invited many different people. And Voltaire thought, okay, this is a good time to go. I'm sad. This is terrible. So he packs up and travels to Berlin in 1750. There he is sitting at the dinner table, a famous, beautiful dining hall in the Charlottenburg Palace, which you can visit in Berlin. And one little note about it that I think is fascinating to think, that it's going to be at this same table that this little German girl and her mother, Sophie, are going to stop and be hosted on their way to St. Petersburg to become Catherine the Great. It's right here at this table. And the Tsarina of Russia, Elizabeth, who was inviting little Sophie to come to her, she had asked Frederick the Great, please host her and tell me what you think. You know, she's on her way, but I could always send her back. So tell me what you think. And so Frederick the Great has her here to this table and her mother, and he puts little Sophie next to him, and she is so delightful, so vivacious, so widely read, so brilliant and charming that Frederick writes to Elizabeth in Russia, says, she is fantastic. Get her to Russia as quick as you can and marry her to your nephew. And that's what she does. So it's right here, same table, in this lovely room in the palace.